Today, humanity generates more data in a single day than entire civilizations recorded in centuries. Yet, as our databases expand exponentially, the capacity to sustain a balanced, thriving world seems to fracture. We have mastered the accumulation of information, but we are starving for actual wisdom. Global academia has historically treated knowledge as a cold, isolated commodity, a collection of facts to be categorized and hoarded, entirely detached from the character of the people who study it. Afrisophy approaches reality as a single, interconnected living organism, a continuous web of relationships linking humanity, nature, and our history. To navigate our current crisis of meaning, we must look to one of the oldest epistemologies on Earth, the African mind. This exploration defines Afrisophy, the formal academic discipline that codifies the ancestral wisdom and intellectual frameworks of African civilizations. At its center is the concept of no-being. This is the understanding that true knowledge is an essential dimension of human character. In this tradition, an individual embodies what they know through action. Ancient African societies manifested this lived knowledge into vast civic and architectural achievements. The stone enclosures of Great Zimbabwe required a deep, sustained understanding of engineering, social organization, and ecology to maintain over generations. Where some traditions isolate the student from the outside world, Afrisophy views knowing as a flowing force. It is an active participation that links humanity directly to the living universe. Before any civilization can build monuments, write its constitutions, or invent its technologies, its people must first establish this unified way of knowing the reality they inhabit. If knowledge is a living force, it must have a mechanism to mature and transfer across generations without losing its integrity. This evolution happens through community knowing. In the African mind, knowledge is never created or tested in isolation. It is validated through shared communal life. This rigorous communal scholarship involved intense discipline. Complex data, histories, and sciences were systematically verified and preserved, surviving centuries through highly organized networks of scholars and memory keepers. This shared intellectual network extended beyond manuscripts into theology and earth sciences, which eventually carved a shared cosmology into the landscape itself, seen in structures like the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela. Because validation is collective, education is a lifelong communal responsibility rather than a temporary institutional phase. Individual understanding remains incomplete until it is tested and enriched by the diverse perspectives of a community. This communal focus also shapes how arguments are resolved. While many traditions prioritize winning a debate or achieving deductive certainty, the African logical tradition focuses on a different outcome. It relies on harmony reason, the disciplined use of rational inquiry specifically to preserve and restore balanced relationships. True logic in this framework requires balancing competing values, like liberty and security, or tradition and innovation, to achieve a proportion that avoids the fractures of either-or extremes. This balanced reasoning served as the foundation of historical African governance. Authority relied on maintaining physical and societal equilibrium among all constituents. Logic reaches its highest potential when it restores justice and strengthens civilizational harmony. Once knowledge is validated by the community and balanced by reason, it approaches the final threshold of human understanding, the metamorphosis into wisdom. This is wisdom being, the condition where knowledge passes through the fires of lived experience and ethical reflection to mature a person's character. Societies possessing extraordinary technical and scientific knowledge have historically collapsed when they lack the moral maturity to govern their own inventions. True wisdom develops slowly, requiring time, adversity, and resilience to forge lasting judgment that transforms the whole person. The ultimate purpose of an educational system is to cultivate wise human beings capable of ethical stewardship. In an era defined by artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and unprecedented digital economies, the relationship between power and character becomes critical. Technical expertise provides the power, But if that power is disconnected from the know-being of the user, it becomes an existential threat. When we possess tools that can reshape our biology or our reality, the absence of moral maturity is a civilizational breaking point. Afrisophy navigates this technological age through steward leadership. Steward leadership demands that technological power be used strictly to protect the flourishing of ecosystems, the integrity of institutions, and the survival of generations yet unborn. Innovation is truly beneficial to humanity only when it acts as the servant of ethical discernment. When these principles guide a society, it moves toward the construction of an ethical civilization. This vision of intergenerational responsibility is rooted in the most enduring architectural and intellectual legacies of Africa's past. Africa's global renaissance ultimately depends on applying its own ancestral wisdom to the bleeding edge of modern science. A civilization's success is ultimately measured by the flourishing of human dignity and ecological harmony, rather than the simple accumulation of data. Knowledge must become wisdom. Wisdom must transform character, and character is what builds civilizations.